and Peter Dunn.
Ian McKelvey.
Oh, this looks good.
Mr. Speaker, I was going to start off talking about credibility and integrity, but the previous speaker has done it for us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak tonight on the good news on the state of our nation. But first and foremost, I'm here tonight to speak in support of our Prime Minister's statement, in which he outlined the great performance of this government to date. He cemented National's intention as we lead up to the next election. Mr. Speaker, this is a government of aspiration, independence and inspiration. And I could add integrity and credibility as well. That's right. and all we do, Mr. Speaker, and all we have attempted to do in the time we've been in a government is aimed at giving people the opportunity to grow and thrive, giving our economy the opportunity to grow and thrive. Mr. Speaker, over there is a gaggle of people whose policies create dependence, stifle growth of the private sector, and in the case of the Greens, stop everything. Mr. Speaker, one of the great achievements of this government has been the ability to prioritise government or reprioritise government spending under that outstanding Treasurer and Bill English, dramatically changing the trends of gross expenditure and ineffective public services promulgated under the Labor government of Helen Clark. It has worked, Mr. Speaker. We've all been able to re-incentivise business, education, government services and our producers to the extent that we are now seeing more jobs created daily, more houses built than for many years, a health system that is catering for more and more people on a daily basis, and better than ever before, in fact, and more exports leaving these shores than ever before. This has all been made possible by the business growth agenda of this government, and I'll detail a few of these initiatives that have had a particular impact in the Rangitikei. The promotion of our export markets as we built a more competitive and productive economy, the development of free trade agreements, the potential for the TPP, and those type agreements has certainly incentivised the producers of my electorate to perform to new levels of effectiveness. Our farmers have new levels of confidence in the future and enthusiasm for now, with intentions of improving environmental and managing sustainable productive systems that have never been stronger. We have an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, because of the activities of this government, to lead the world again in this field, something we have struggled with. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak for a minute about innovation. Massey University, many of the CRIs, the Ritter Institute, all in my electorate, all thriving in the new environment this government has created for them to operate as they play their part in the scientific contribution to the government's growth aspirations. Only tonight we saw a remarkable presentation, well I thought it was beyond belief frankly, across the corridor in the Speaker's Science Forum, where we saw the use of nanotechnology, which I think too late to replace my teeth, Mr. Speaker, but certainly will replace the teeth of many of our younger members of Parliament in the future. All they do is poke it into a printer and it comes out the other end and you've got a new set of teeth. I couldn't believe it, frankly. But it will make a massive difference to the way the world sees a lot of things. And one of the slogans they had up there tonight, Mr. Speaker, was, I have seen the future and it works, and it was a quote from Lincoln Steffens. And actually, I guess this government has seen the future to some extent and it's working. I want to speak for a while about tourism. Mr. Speaker, the Northern Rangitikei has been watching for a number of years as people left, jobs disappeared and businesses struggled. Under this government, and partly due to the Prime Minister's brilliant and innovative cycle trail development idea, the number of new opportunities, job opportunities and things for young people to do in our electorate have increased significantly. The tourist activities in the north of my electorate, and I'm sure in many other electorates, are significant. Right. Notably, the Forgotten World Adventure initiative, which uses golf carts and uses the old railway line from Taumarunui to Stratford. There's something like between 40 and 80 of those a day being picked up on a good day and using that railway line all the way to Stratford, creating new business opportunities along the way, much like the Otago cycle trail actually, creating new businesses along the way, creating new jobs and giving people new hope and a different way of life than they've had before. I think the tourism initiative, Mr. Speaker, is amazing, and an electorate like mine has just made such a difference. and that will undoubtedly be our future. Mr. Speaker, the positive bullet points generated by this government are more prolific than Kane Williamson's bat, and you wouldn't often have been able to say that about a cricketer. But they are, and like BJ Watling, we scarcely let a chance go by. Having said that, there are some challenges for us in rural New Zealand. Maintenance of infrastructure in areas of static or little growth is a challenge for those communities, and we need to ensure that that continues. Roads, electrical reticulation and communication, all big challenges for us in rural New Zealand, all big challenge for governments as we strive to, provide those services, and as we leave the GFC behind, these matters will be addressed in the future. They are being addressed now, but it is a challenge for us, and I think it's something we must bear in mind as we move forward in New Zealand. The great investment in cycleways, walkways, our environment and agriculture are doing a lot to contribute to that. Mr. Speaker, the Green Labour coalition that we see across the House today has already commenced the lolly scramble that election year is for them. A typically irresponsible attempt to bribe the electorate by using taxpayers' funds irresponsibly. The damage these policies do is evidenced by some of the challenge this government has had in arresting the dramatic growth of the public sector and, of course, managing the challenges the student loan scheme has provided for us as a country. Mr. Speaker, I had the privilege of attending the Waitangi celebrations last week, the first time I've ever been there. I went there, I guess, with an expectation created probably by the press in New Zealand. When I got there, I found something very different. The celebrations I attended did not remotely resemble anything I had seen in my time by reading the press and watching on television. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, as they've raised the subject of the Prime Minister, I think the Prime Minister has an enormous amount to do with the fact that Waitangi is what it is today, as opposed to what it was some 8 years ago. And I thought it was a special occasion. When you think about it, we were welcomed by proud people to their place. When you go to someone's house for the night, you expect to be told what they expect of you. You expect to have the right to answer them back. And it's exactly how it worked for me, and certainly worked like that for the Prime Minister. I was most impressed with Waitangi, Mr. Speaker. I think as a country we have a whole lot to protect around the celebration of Waitangi Day, and I think for anyone who's able to go to Waitangi and celebrate that day, it's a very special occasion and something that should be taken up at every opportunity. I want to briefly speak tonight, Mr. Speaker, about some of the activities that are happening in our primary sector. And of course the Primary Production Select Committee in this House has a lot to do with that. And when you think that we have the Animal Welfare Bill and the Food Bill before that committee at the moment, one realises the importance of those two pieces of legislation when you think that they prop up some $30 billion worth of exports. They don't only prop it up, but they support them and guarantee the future of those $30 billion worth of exports. Mr. Speaker, the other leg of the triumvirate, I guess, for our primary productive sector is the environment. And I want to very briefly talk about the contribution that this government has made to environmental improvement in New Zealand. We have led the way in this field. The Land and Water Forum, the work of our regional councils, and of course the work of the Ministry for the Environment are significant. And I think that we can be very proud as a government and as a country of the repair and the work that's going on in our environment to improve our opportunities in the future. After all, our tourism and agriculture sectors rely entirely on the environment for their futures. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to be a part of this government. I think we're doing pretty well. I think we've had some difficult times, and I've looked forward to the future with confidence. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude tonight by supporting the activities of this government, the great work of our Prime Minister and his Cabinet. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker. Tim McIndoe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What an excellent choice.